Yeah, HQ, welcome in. I'm Eric Casillas. And UFC 248 now complete from Las Vegas. And boy, there were two big events, and they couldn't have been more different. One, kind of lackluster. Crowd booed in spots. The other, a great fight that was on from the first bell all the way through 5 rounds. Let's take a look how it went down, and we will start with the men in their division with the title fight. And here we go. It's Israel Adesanya and Yoel Romero, the challenger. There he is, Romero, 42 years old, walking out. And the champion, like coming to America, got the flowers. All he needed was James Earl Jones walking him out and maybe Arsenio playing 6 roles. Anyway, the 42-year-old had lost his last 2 by decision. There's the champ in his first defense of his title. Very uneventful for most of the first round. Romero does land a big left on the champion. That was pretty much it. Second round, Romero blitzes Adesanya, but Israel keeps his composure. Third round, Adesanya starts to find his groove. Lands a little hard body kick on Romero. And that was really the plan for Adesanya, to chip away at that leg you see there in round 4, buckles the knee. And then in round 5, it got a little, I don't know, weird. That was about it right at the end. Got cartwheels, guys mean mugging, and it was over. And you see the decision. Goes with the champion. Unanimous decision. Improves his undefeated record to 19-0. So you see there, total strikes. Adesanya had more, way more attempts. Romero was more efficient there. Significant strikes and takedowns. You see, really not much. Let's be honest, it was kind of a dull fight. It was kind of Romero wanted to sort of shorten the game, if you will. Did that. Ultimately, he didn't do enough, according to the judges, to take the belt away. The decisions were unanimous, but they were all very, very close. This just in, UFC 248 from Vegas. Israel Adesanya defeats Yoel Romero by unanimous decision. This will not go down as an all-time great fight. Rather lackluster, huge gaps without really any contact or activity. Ultimately, not much happened, but Adesanya does enough to retain his title in a unanimous decision. Close, but unanimous. So congratulations to Adesanya, who is still your champion. And we bring in our champion, our Hall of Famer, Rashad Evans, who's our CBS UFC analyst, and we say hello and welcome. All right, let's start with the fight, the main event. Adesanya gets the win. It was, how would you have scored this fight? And then I'll get to your thoughts on the fight.
I think the scoring was quite fair, but it was just so hard to score just because there wasn't a lot of activity happening and there was little damage done on either side. So it just kind of made you just guess at who was affected by the most damage and who was, pursuing the most activity. And at that rate, it was Adesanya all the way.
All right. Now, when you think about this fight, your initial reaction, if you were going to describe it sort of in one word or one sentence, would be what?
It was pace. I said it in my breakdown that, pace would be something that Israel had to bring out of Yoel. He had to break him of that pace. Sometimes Yoel can, jam up a whole fight, just fighting that slow, methodical style. And he's so defensively responsible and powerful at the same time. It's hard to just rush in and just, throw caution to the wind and try to go in for a strike when he has that much power on the other end.
Was Romero's game plan going in too conservative? Is that ultimately what cost him the fight? Like, you got to sort of take it from the champ, right? You want to be the man, you got to beat the man. You got to take the belt from him. Did he have a plan that really allowed him to do that?
I think that Romero fought the fight that he always fights, and I think that what happens in the other fights, the fact that the other guy gets tired of just playing that patient game, and they just throw caution to the wind, and they make something happen, and then Yoel capitalizes off of that. in this case right here, Israel didn't offer any chance for anything to happen because he fought conservative as well all the way through. And, without anyone going for any big shots or taking any risk, you're just seeing, a very safe fight by both fighters.
Yeah, sometimes, your goal is to check the box, get the win, and get out of Dodge. Israel Adesanya, do you feel differently about him? Did his stock go up, go down, or go sideways after the fight tonight?
I think it definitely took a hit, just because of the fact that, he comes across as such a dynamic fighter in so many different aspects when it comes to just entertaining, but more importantly when it comes to just fighting and just having a very interesting style. But here you've seen him get shut down, and you didn't get to see him get shut down with a lot of technique and someone who matched his skill level. You've seen him get shut down with somebody who, just brought pretty much simplicity to the table and just stuck to some good defensive basics. And, I think that some opponents that watch Israel in the future will definitely gain something from this fight, because I think this definitely exposed some things that some fighters can take advantage of when you fight Israel.
Let's start with the men's fight here. If you were going to encapsulate this fight in sort of one sentence or one word, what would it be?
Bizarre. One word, bizarre. Absolutely. This will go down in history as one of the most anticipated title fights from an action standpoint, but then you got the complete opposite in how it played out. You heard the crowd boost throughout of those 5 rounds. The problem for Yoel Romero, and this has been his problem in his biggest fights, which seemingly always go down to disputed decisions, is not doing enough. Eric, they say art can be a subjective thing in terms of judging it. Certainly the crowd, certainly the judges didn't ultimately love what he did. Even though Romero had flashes of brilliance, he successfully disarmed the champion, Israel Adesanya, one of the most dangerous strikers, and gave him reason not to take the lead and land. The problem was in the end that you had 2 counterpunchers. Neither wanted to make the mistake that could lead to the fight ending. You have to give Israel Adesanya credit for this at the very least, knowing that there was a good chance he was down 2 rounds to 0, really at that midway point of that fight. At the very least, what he did was stay active, and particularly focusing on the lead leg of Yoel Romero, which was heavily welted after that fight and swollen. It was enough to sway the judges in the end. I thought Romero maybe won that fight 3 rounds to 2, but when you leave it open and don't do enough on this level, you really have no one to blame but yourself ultimately. Romero was brilliant, particularly defensively, but 1 big counter strike per round is just not enough to win at this level, and he paid the price for it.
Ultimately, did you feel like this was a good night or a bad night for Adesanya? I mean, he defended his title, checked the box, but I feel like there's a lot of folks that may feel a little differently about him, and not necessarily a positive.
I mean, it certainly wasn't spectacular and didn't live up to that run he had been on in just 2 short years, going 7-0 inside the octagon, winning that championship against Robert Whittaker last year with 1 punch. This was not that type of fight. It was much more, of course, the variety of survive in advance. I certainly don't think this is a lateral or backward step by any means. This is just a night at the office, and sometimes you have to deal with what the other person is bringing at you. Now, from Adesanya's point of view, would you have liked to have seen more? Certainly. Like I mentioned, he did just enough to win, and he got that win in the end. If there's any criticism, it's even on him for giving the judges a potential chance to give Romero this win. How do you top what was this co-main event tonight? The Adesanya Romero certainly had an uphill battle to come even close. They laid an egg in the end, and it is what it is. But Adesanya is still that guy, and he still went out of his way to fight the most dangerous opponent available, who is Yoel Romero, and he got the W. So sometimes, Eric, that's all you can ask for.
All right, I'm going to get to the really good fight in a second. But let me ask it this way. There's a certain tie goes to the runner in baseball. Anything close, you got to take the belt from the champion. If Romero had been the champion, would he have gotten the decision based upon that fight?
Probably not. Look, when you look across the biggest fights in combat sports, boxing or MMA, activity, ring generalship, the guy coming forward, that means a lot in the eyes of the judges. And when you have these weird rounds like we saw tonight in which neither guy is doing a lot, yet you're seeing Adesanya coming forward and at least in rounds 3 through 5 trying to make the fight, getting off with jabs and leg kicks. in the end, it's very easy to reward that, and I have no problem with how this fight was scored. I think the only sort of setback on this night for either the UFC or Adesanya is the idea that this had the potential, if he was able to finish Romero in the manner in which he predicted, given how, of course, dangerous Romero is, this could have been a rocket ship launch to the kind of global superstardom that very few people get to. That doesn't mean Adesanya won't, but there sort of is that muted nature into how he pulled it off. Tie goes to the runner. You got to take the belt from the champ. That's all great, but at the end of the day, you're still scoring rounds, round by round. You add them all together, you get your final score. And in the end, like we said, Adesanya did just enough to survive and advance. Hey, it's March, right? That's a theme. That's a thing people do, right?
I love your survive and advance.